We all look to the skies when we plan our farming. The seasons have become reliable guideposts for the rhythm of our livelihoods. But what happens when the skies and the seasons lose their rhythm? In the past, farmers went about their work with confidence because the climate was predictable. They knew when to expect rain or when to expect storms. But things have been different. Drought and flooding have become more frequent and more destructive, affecting crops, livestock, and human lives. Agriculture suffered. Poverty and hopelessness persist. These changes in climate are caused by global warming, which is largely man-made. Global warming is caused by increased amounts of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxides, which trap and emit heat, thereby warming the atmosphere. Mismanagement of agricultural and natural resources is a major cause. Cutting trees and burning forests increase the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Trees and forests are carbon sinks. That is, they take in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and either use it for photosynthesis or store it. On the contrary, burning forests and farm waste, such as rice straw, release black carbon into the atmosphere. Black carbon traps heat more than carbon dioxide does. Rice paddies release methane when biomass decay in the field without oxygen or when these are left underwater. Methane heats the atmosphere more than carbon dioxide does. Chemical fertilizers also contribute to global warming because they release nitrous oxide, which heats the atmosphere more than carbon dioxide does. When chemical fertilizers find their way to waterways, rivers, and the sea, they destroy the flora and the fauna and reduce the capacity of these water resources to provide food and livelihood to people. Nitrous oxide is released from chemical fertilizers, and methane is released from farm manure if left to decompose in the open. Composting is one of the most practical ways to clean the Earth's atmosphere from greenhouse gases, while improving farming systems. Composting is the decomposition of agricultural wastes in the presence of oxygen, called aerobic composting, or absence of oxygen, called anaerobic composting. In both methods, compost as organic fertilizer is produced and can substitute for chemical fertilizers. In addition, compost improves soil structure and root penetration, increases water and nutrient retention capacity, adds micronutrients, and increases the number of beneficial microorganisms in the soil. These are essential elements in sustainable agriculture and in building climate-friendly, more resilient farming systems to meet the food security needs of farmers and their households. Aerobic composting produces compost much faster than anaerobic composting. Farmers have been practicing composting for a long time. However, the traditional practice to produce compost takes a longer period of time, usually 3 months or longer. This is because farm wastes such as rice straws, cut weeds, plant litters, and animal manure are just piled without proper moisture control and periodic turning to aerate the pile for faster decomposition. Without aeration, the compost pile may also become anaerobic, thereby producing and releasing methane and carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Today, we will briefly review a few methods of making compost the better and faster way. One method is vermicomposting, or the use of earthworms to produce compost. It is similar to plain compost and is also known as worm compost, vermicast, worm castings, worm humus, or worm manure. To do vermicomposting, here's a sample procedure that you can try. Dig a pit of about 3 meters wide, 4 meters long, and 1 meter deep. Line it with sacks to prevent the worms from escaping. Lay some bamboo poles on the pit floor covered with strips of wood for drainage, since the worms could not survive waterlogged conditions. Fill the pit with available crop residues, animal manure, green weeds, and leaves. Cover loosely with soil and keep moist for a week or so. Water 1 or 2 spots on the heap and place the worms on top. The worms burrow down immediately into the damp soil. Leave the compost pit for 2 months under moist and shaded condition. Within this period, about 10 kilograms of castings can be produced per kilogram of worms. Harvest the compost up to about 2/3 to 3/4 of the pit to leave sufficient worms for further composting. Refill the pit with fresh organic residues. Other agricultural residues can serve as good raw materials for vermicomposting, like sorghum and rice straws, dry leaves of crops and trees, pigeon pea stalks, groundnut husk, soybean residues, vegetable wastes, fiber from coconut trees, and sugarcane trash. In addition, you can also use animal manures, dairy and poultry wastes, food industry wastes, municipal solid wastes, and biogas sludge. Vermicomposting has lower turnover than other rapid composting methods, and the composting process takes longer, a range of 6 to 12 weeks, but it produces high-quality compost and does not require physical turning of the compost material. Another method of composting is called the effective microorganism-based or EM-based composting. This process uses cow dung, rice husk charcoal, and milled rice bran as raw materials. An accelerator called the EM solution or a trichoderma solution is added. The EM solution hastens the composting process. It reduces the composting period from 3 months to 1 month. Some experts say, however, that the quality of compost from rapid composting is not as good as that of compost made the traditional way. EM-based composting has 2 parts. The first part is the preparation of the accelerator. Mix 10 milliliters of EM, 40 milliliters of molasses, and 950 milliliters of water and leave it for 5 to 7 days. This can make 1 liter of instant solution. Then the solution is added to 1 liter of molasses and 98 liters of water to obtain 100 liters of ready-to-use EM solution. This amount is enough for 3 pits. The second part is the composting process. First, mix 2 portions of cow dung, 1 portion of rice husk, 1 portion of rice husk charcoal, and 1 portion of milled rice bran. Second, make a half-foot layer of mixture in the pit and sprinkle the accelerator. Normally, 33 liters of EM solution or trichoderma solution per pit is being used. Third, repeat the same procedure until the pit is full. Cover with plastic sheet. Last, after 2 or 3 weeks, mix the whole pit to boost aerobic decomposition. The fertilizer is ready to use after a couple of weeks. Anaerobic composting, on the other hand, produces methane which can be captured as clean fuel for household lighting and cooking, thereby providing a cleaner alternative against carbon-intensive kerosene or biomass while producing compost as organic fertilizer. The ADB Rajasthan project in India is a good example of a composting project. It includes composting of municipal solid wastes or garbage from small to medium cities across Rajasthan, and the first program is expected to reduce over 3,000 tons of carbon dioxide per year. The project generates positive impact on climate change by reducing methane emissions that would have escaped into the atmosphere if the waste was left to decay in the open. The project also reduces ground and surface water contamination by preventing leaching of toxic materials produced when the waste decomposes. Anaerobic decomposition is also the operating principle of biogas plants. Biogas plants have an anaerobic digester which transforms animal manure into methane or biogas, which is then captured as clean fuel. The byproduct of biogas plants, called bioslurry, is a digested or composted manure that is used as organic fertilizer. An ADB project in Vietnam that put up 40,000 biogas plants helped reduce 40,000 to 60,000 tons per year of carbon dioxide emissions. The Rajasthan composting project in India and the biogas plants in Vietnam are examples of projects that have the potential to earn additional revenue from reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the form of carbon credits. This is possible through carbon financing mechanisms. Developed countries buy the carbon credits from clean, environmentally friendly projects in developing countries as part of their international commitment on climate change. In the case of ADB Biogas project in Vietnam, the carbon sold in international market is translating into each government receiving about $500 to subsidize the construction cost of their biogas plant. Composting projects and other climate-friendly farm management practices, such as organic farming, may have the potential for carbon financing schemes if they reduce greenhouse gas emissions that are verifiable and comply to all the modalities and procedures as required by the carbon financing mechanisms such as CDM or others. The application procedure for a carbon financing scheme could be very technical, and transaction costs are high for an individual farmer to pursue. It is therefore recommended that several composting units be clustered to form a large single project. Each country has a focal point for climate change, also known as a Designated National Authority, or DNA. Examples are the Thailand Greenhouse Gas Management Organization, or TGO, in Thailand, the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment in Vietnam, Ministry of Environment in Cambodia, Water Resources and Environment Administration in Lao PDR, Ministry of Forestry, Planning and Statistics Department in Myanmar, and the National Development and Reform Commission of China. These DNAs can give you more information on the steps and requirements for developing your project for carbon financing. If your group is interested to come up with a project, it is advisable to contact them so that they can guide you about your particular needs. Getting involved in compost making not only benefits the community through potential added income and social benefits, but also provides an opportunity to help control the factors that contribute to global warming, which results in climate change. Currently, carbon financing for smallholders is a long process. However, efforts are being made to make the process easier and more friendly to farmers. Regardless of carbon financing revenue, compost making is still one of the best ways to enhance resiliency of farming systems while allowing farmers to become agents of change in creating a sustainable environment and minimizing the causes of climate change.